Okay. Okay, we are going to start chapter 2. Okay, so, and just like with chapter 1, we are going to focus on 3 sections, okay? Comunicación, vocabulario, and finally, estructura or grammar, okay? So I'm going to go right through the textbook. I'm going to home in on what is important for doing well in your homework and your test. Please do and look through the materials in between. Okay, there's some really good exercises there. Now, the theme of chapter 2 is mis amigos y yo, my friends and I. Okay, you're going to need to be able to talk a little bit about yourself and your friends, describe yourself with adjectives, and maybe talk a little bit about what you and they like to do. So let's get right into this. And so what we're going to do first in comunicación, we might want to be able to give somebody our age, talk about our age. All right. And there's in Spanish, as you know, we have 2 forms of you. So if you want to ask someone's age, how old are you? You might want to use the informal you that you would use normally with friends and family, the tu form, or you could use the usted form with somebody you're not familiar with that you're meeting for the first time. Usted. That's all they want you to see here. Now, how do you ask somebody their age? All right. So in Spanish, here's the signature question. ¿Cuántos años tienes? ¿Cuántos is a question word. It means how many. Años, it means years. The N with the line over it is pronounced like an NY, años. And there's our verb tener. How old are you? You need to know how to conjugate the verb tener in the present tense. We learned that in chapter 1. So how old are you? That's for friends and family. For someone you don't know, then it's cuántos años tiene usted. You use the formal you, and tiene is the conjugation. So we need to be able to look through this. They give you some examples of people asking and giving their ages. I'm going to jump right to the little box beneath. All right. We know the numbers now. So we're able to give our age, right? Up to whatever into our 90s or 100. So how do you give age? All right. So the question would be in the box here, ¿cuántos años tienes? How old are you? And ¿cuántos años tiene usted? How do you answer it? Well, you ask the question with tener, you give the answer back with tener. Tengo, and then however old you are. If you're 20 years old, you would say, yo tengo 20 años. Never use ser with age. You would never say, yo soy 20 años. All right. You would say, yo tengo 20 años. Él tiene 30 años. He's 30 years old. Never use ser. All right. So they give you some examples here. Take a look through this. It's very simple, very, very basic, very basic Spanish. Okay. Let's see here. The next one. They want us to work with the verb ir. Okay. Ir is the verb to go. Okay. So, a dónde is the question word. It means where. Where? A dónde vas? Where are you going? That's the to form. A dónde va is the usted form. Where are you going? Real quickly. And they do some exercises. And we'll jump right to the little box here beneath. Okay. The little box here on page 40. To ask where someone is going, use one of the following questions. ¿A dónde vas for the to form? ¿A dónde va for the usted form? How do you answer that? Well, if somebody asks you where you're going, you would say, I am going. How would you say that? Yo voy a, and then give me the place. So we have to know a few places that we might be going to for this unit to do well in your homework and on your test. So we'll be learning some of that vocabulary a little later. But I am going is yo voy or voy. Remember, in Spanish, we do not need to have the subject pronoun every time we conjugate a verb. In English, we do. So in English, I can't just say go. I have to say I go, or I just, okay. I can't just say am going. I have to say I am going. Not in Spanish. Voy means yo. So we can just say voy. Now, whenever we're going somewhere, or whenever we're using the verb to go, when we're conjugating it, we follow it by the very important preposition to. What is that? How do we say to in Spanish? It's a. So always follow your conjugation of ir with the preposition a. So it's, if I'm going to the class, the place would be la clase. So I would say yo voy a la clase. Never yo voy la clase. Yo voy a la clase. You always have to. He's going to the class. Él va a la clase. All right, let's take a look here. So we're going to learn a few places in our vocabulary a little later on. So we can say, I'm going to the supermarket or I'm going to the office. Let's look below. So say you're going to the gym. Look at the word gym, el gimnasio. The G before an I is pronounced like an H, and it ends in an O, so it's masculine, el gimnasio. I'm going to the gym is yo voy a el gimnasio. But notice what happens. A plus el, the masculine da, contracts to al. There's very few contractions in Spanish. This is one of the major ones. Whenever you have the preposition a, to, before the word, the masculine word for the, el, it contracts to al. So yo voy al gimnasio. If I'm going to the bank, banco, yo voy al banco. What if it's a feminine place? There's no contraction. Yo voy a la oficina. Okay, I think we're good with that. Next, they want us to be able to use the verb gustar. The verb gustar. So look, let's jump to the box on page 42. And how do we say I like? We say me gusta. And then after that, you follow it with the noun, the thing liked, or the activity. Do you like to eat, comer, whatever it is? So me gusta. So notice there's no yo, I like, it's me gusta. It's an idiomatic way of speaking, and just make sure you're aware of that. So I like is me gusta, so I like chemistry, me gusta la química. I like to go to the movies, ir al cine, cine is movies, me gusta ir al cine, okay? If you don't like something, just put no before me, no me gusta la arquitectura. Okay, or no me gusta estar en casa, to be at home. En casa, en means in or at home. Okay, what if you want to ask somebody, do you like? You're going to use te gusta for to, and if it's usted, if you're using usted with them, you would say le gusta. So let's look beneath. Do you like la playa, the beach? Te gusta la playa? All right. Do you like the gym? Do you like to go to the gym? And you're asking, usted, it would be, le gusta ir al gimnasio. Very simple. Make sure you feel comfortable with that. You can recognize that. Okay, because we're going to go into more depth in gustar in a few minutes. And then I would like to move on to vocabulario. Okay, so the vocabulary for this unit is describing people, places, and things. You're going to need to talk about yourself. You're going to need to describe yourself physically. I'm tall, short. maybe your personality or characteristics. I am reserved, I'm outgoing, and you should be able to talk about your friends that way too. So let's get familiar with some of these adjectives, okay? You need to know the adjectives. So here they are. Alto means tall, animado, animated, bajo with a J, the J is pronounced like an H, is short in stature and height. Happy, contento, or feliz, there's a couple ways to say it, more than one. Look at weak is débil. Think of debilitating in English. Débil, weak. Thin, delgada. Strong, fuerte. And as we go through these, notice I'm giving you some of the opposites. Fuerte is strong. Débil is weak. Learn your opposites. You're going to be asked them on your exam. They might give you débil and say, what's the opposite? You should know it. Gordo, fat. What's the opposite? Delgado. Grande is large. Joven, the J is pronounced like an H, is young. All right. Lento, slow. Pequeño, there's that N with the line over it. It's pronounced like an NY. Pequeño, small. Little, chico. Perezoso, lazy. Pobre, poor. Rápido, fast. Reservada, reserved. Rica or rico, rich. Trabajador, hardworking. Triste, sad. So triste is sad, and contento is feliz is the opposite, happy. Viejo, vieja, old, and we had young, which is joven. So make sure you're familiar with these and their opposites. There are some more adjectives. Please go through them, spend some time with them, and learn them, particularly the ones at the beginning here: aburrido, boring, antipático, obnoxious, simpático, friendly. Antipático is obnoxious or unfriendly. Take a look at some of these. And they give you a bunch more, and these are fairly easy. Just familiarize yourself with them. You might want to select a few that you use to describe yourself or a friend. You don't have to know everything here, but be familiar with some of these adjectives so you can talk about yourself and or others. The colors are adjectives as well, okay? And so they give us the colors here. Please go through these. Amarillo, yellow, anaranjado, orange, azul, azure, blue, blanco, white, gris, gray, café for brown, morado, purple, negro, black, rojo. There's that J is pronounced like an H, red, and rosado, pink. There are some of your colors. Now, a question you'll often hear asked is, ¿de qué color es? We use the verbs there. What color is it? ¿De color es means what color is it? And you should be able to talk about something and talk about its color. All right. So you could say es rojo, it's red. Es blanco or es negro. And we'll look at these in a little more depth. Okay. Now, they want us to be able to describe ourselves or someone, our physical characteristics, like talk about hair. And one way of talking about your hair is you can say, in Spanish, they might say, I have the hair brown, or I have the hair blonde. So you can use tener with it. That's what they want you to see. So to talk about hair, which is pelo, and color, use the verb tener and one of the color adjectives. So you can look through this. And so castaño, brown, moreno, dark brown, negro, black, rubio, blonde, light brown, trigueño. So I have brown hair. Yo tengo el pelo castaño. The girl has blonde hair. La niña tiene pelo rubio. Mi amiga tiene pelo rubio. I'm sorry. Mi amiga tiene pelo rubio. Okay, my friend has blonde hair. You can also use ser. She's a blonde. She's a redhead. So Marcela es rubia. Marcelo is a blonde. Marcos es moreno. Or Dolores es pelirroja. Okay, she's a redhead. What about eyes? Los ojos. The J is pronounced like an H. You use tener. I have the eyes blue. Again, so if you want to describe eyes, you can use tener plus los ojos, or you can use ser and the color like we do in English to be. Let's take a look. Tengo los ojos azules. I have blue eyes. Ella tiene los ojos verdes. She has green eyes. Mi amiga tiene los ojos verdes. My friend has green eyes. You could ask, ¿de qué color son los ojos? What color are the eyes? And then you would answer back, ellos son verdes, or ellos son negros, or ellos son de color negro, which is a little more awkward, but is used. Okay. Let me see. Okay. And then I wanted you to take a look here. Okay. On page 47, a little bit beneath the section in adjectives, there is a Conéctate al Mundo Hispano. These are these little cultural sections I talked about in the last chapter that they'll put in the book, and sometimes the whole section will appear on your test. They're going to test on this one, this specific one here on page 47, talking about el español y los españoles. Please take a look at it, how you use español to refer to the Spanish language or to the Spanish people, los españoles, to make sure you review that. Okay, let's move on to page 48. And here we're going to look at los países, the countries. They want you to just get familiar with a few countries, how to say it in Spanish, to recognize that some nationalities, and to talk about las banderas, banners or flags of different countries, and why. They want you to be able just to talk about the colors maybe of a bandera. You might be given a flag or asked about the colors of a flag. And so, ¿de qué color es la bandera de Guatemala? What color is Guatemala's flag? You should be able to say, la bandera es roja, o la bandera es roja, amarilla y verde. That's kind of what they want you to do here. And they give us some of the nationalities. Okay, if you're, it's Paraguayan, Paraguayo, Guatemalteco, Guatemalan, Dominicano, Dominican, Nicaragüense, for Nicaraguan, Puerto Riqueño. For the United States in Spanish is Los Estados Unidos. And if it's American, we would say La Bandera Estadounidense. Okay, so they're giving us just different nationalities, like the Argentine flag would be La Bandera Argentina, the Bolivian La Bandera Boliviana, La Bandera Canadian would be La Bandera Canadiense, etc., etc. Take a look at this a little bit, and make sure you know the colors and you could talk about the color of a flag from a different country. Okay, and that you might know or recognize a few países or countries. There's not a whole lot of testing on this. Okay. Okay, now let's go to estructura. Okay, estructura starts on page 49. Estructura is our section on grammar. Now, I didn't talk about it so much when we were in vocabulary, but now we need to go into some detail. So let's go to the section Actividades Analíticas and go directly to section 2. This is very important. This will be on your test, and it's very simple, but it's very different from English. So in Spanish, we have many adjectives, as you might have known in vocabulario, noticed, end in O. So adjectives like alto, tall, bonito, pretty, uh, viejo, old, gordo, fat, they end in O. Adjectives that end in O have 4 different forms, and the forms of the adjective will change depending upon the item you're modifying or referring to. Whatever person or thing the adjective refers to will affect the adjective. So if you're talking about something masculine, you need the masculine form of the adjective. If it's feminine, you need the feminine form of the adjective. If it's plural, you need the plural form, plural masculine form, or plural feminine form. English does not have this. So there's 4 ways to say, for example, tall in Spanish. Okay, well, let's look below here in this chart. If the person or thing you're referring to is masculine and singular, el hombre, it's el hombre alto. Alto would be the way you would say the tall man, el hombre alto. And notice in Spanish, generally adjectives follow the nouns. They modify, they don't come before. You wouldn't say el alto hombre, you say el hombre alto. But notice the form of it of alto. It's alto. Okay, the next one. We've got, we would have, we have the plural form, los hombres altos. Now I have to tweak the adjective again. It's not los hombres alto, it's los hombres altos. I have to put an S on it. So when the item is plural, we add an S. Finally, what if we have a feminine item and okay, and the thing we're referring to is feminine, la mujer. It would be la mujer alta. The O changes to A. So it's la mujer alta. What if we have many women? Las mujeres altas. We put an S ending on. So in Spanish, tall has 4 forms: alto, alta, altos, altas. So make sure you're paying attention. You're going to be asked this on your question. When you're what you're referring to, if it's a man or a woman, or if the item is masculine or feminine, you've got to adjust the adjective accordingly. So it would, if you want to say the old book, it's el libro viejo. Okay. All right. Because, uh, but, and let's say, let's say we want to say, I don't know, the old class. It would be la clase vieja. All right. So we have to tweak the adjective according to the gender of the item we're referring to. Look at our colors. All right. They're adjectives. We just learned that. So if we want to say the red pen, we could say la pluma roja. All right. If we want to say the red pens, it's las plumas rojas. But what if it's a book? It would be a libro rojo with an O ending, and the plural would be los libros rojos. So make sure you're paying attention to the gender and number of the item or the thing you're referring to. Now, some adjectives in number 3 end in an E, and or they can end in a consonant like joven. Very few end in a consonant. In this case, there's no masculine or feminine form. That's what they want you to see. So it's el hombre triste, la mujer triste. Look at joven. El hombre joven, la mujer joven. The young man, el hombre joven, la mujer joven. No, but when they're plural, and if there's a plural thing you're referring to, you have to add an S. So los hombres tristes, the sad men. Now, if the adjective, and joven is the only one I believe we have that ends in a consonant, you have to add an es. Los hombres jóvenes, as we learned in chapter 1. When a word ended in a consonant, you want to make it plural, you add an es ending. Normally, you add just an s, but in this case, you have to add an es. Okay, what about the sad women? Las mujeres tristes y las mujeres jóvenes. Okay, I think that's it. Okay. Let me see. Make sure. And there's some exercises and some readings you can do here. I'm not going to go in any detail on these. Now I want to jump to the next area in estructura or grammar. They want you to learn the verbs estar. Estar means to be. We just learned the verb to be in chapter 1, ser. And unfortunately, there are two verbs to be in Spanish. We need to know when to use which one. And I'll tell you, just generally speaking, ser is used for a permanent characteristics, for identifying something. Okay. Estar is used for temporary condition. And we'll look at that in a little bit more detail below. Ir is the verb to go, the verb to go. And we're going to learn how to conjugate that. So estar and ir are the verbs we're going to be working with. So they give the conjugations above. And let's just jump right into actividades analíticas here. And let's conjugate the verb estar or to be. It's yo estoy, and you have to memorize these. Tú estás, with an A ascending. Él está, usted está. Nosotros estamos, estamos with an AMO ascending. We don't use vosotros, as I said, we use ustedes for you all. Okay, so ustedes están. Ellos están, ellos they are. What about ir? I go or I am going is yo voy. You are going is tú vas. He is going, él va. You are going, usted va. We are going. Nosotros vamos. 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 And they are going, ellos van. Make sure you can conjugate these verbs. Again, I saw in the chapter 1 test, sometimes people just didn't bother even to internalize or learn some of these conjugates. And they're very simple. Okay, now, again, they tell you you don't need to use the subject pronoun. For example, I am. You don't have to say yo estoy. You can just say estoy. Estoy only means I am. Estamos only means we are. Now, here's some examples. And they're going to use estar with adjectives. And adjectives of emotional state, really. So estoy contenta, I'm happy. Están aburridos. Ellos están aburridos, they are bored. Vamos a la fiesta. We are going to the party. Again, we always follow the verb ir when we conjugate it with the preposition a too. So vamos a, and then they give us a destination. Vamos a la fiesta. Okay, we are going to the party. We are going to the gym. Vamos al gimnasio. We're going to the supermarket. Vamos al supermercado. We've always got to follow it with that a. El becomes al. And here's a question. ¿Vas a clase? Are you going to class? Okay. Let's see. Let's look at section 2 here. As you saw about the form of the verb used to address someone formally is different from the informal to form. As we just discussed, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? That's the to form. ¿Cómo está usted? With ir, ¿vas a la fiesta? Are you informal going to the party? Or ¿va usted a la fiesta? Are you formal going to the party? Okay. This is very important. Usually the verb estar expresses characteristics that are not necessarily lasting. They're temporary, like emotional states or physical states. For example, the state of being tired or being sick could change. They're temporary, so we use estar. So we wouldn't use ser here. And that's the main thing I want you to take away here. There's more to the differences between ser and estar, but just basically we'll be using estar in this unit with emotional or temporary states, physical states like being tired or sick being happy or sad. So they are tired. We are tired. Nosotros estamos cansados. Notice it has an S ending. We had to tweak it. Okay. Yo estoy cansado. I am tired. Ella está cansada. Nosotros estamos cansados, plural, or ellas están cansadas. So there's 4 forms of cansado. It ends in an O. Make sure you tweak it, okay, to whether it's singular or plural, masculine or feminine. Okay, here we're asking a female, are you tired? Are you sick? Forgive me. ¿Estás enferma? If it was a male I was asking, I would say, ¿estás enfermo? Okay. Okay. Now, things that never change, that's when we're going to use ser. Things of identity or permanence. So I am from Guatemala. Yo soy de Guatemala. Él es de Honduras. He's from Honduras. Él es hondureño. He's Hondureñan. It's permanent. Look at this. UCLA is a university. We use a ser. So we're going to use ser with permanency. And you can go back to section 1.3, giving identity or permanency. Okay. Let us move on here. Okay. There are some question words. Okay. On page 54, and you might want to just look through these. We've already had some K, what, a donde, where, okay, cuántos años, how many. Take a look and start to familiarize yourself with your question words. Okay, and now let me see. Okay, let us go next to the verb gustar, and we already used it a little bit. Now we're going to look at it in more detail. We want to be able to say we like things or we like to do activities. So we're going to be using the verb gustar with nouns. I like the class. I like the books. Or with activities. I like to eat. Okay, I like to play sports. We'll be using it with verbs. So let's take a look. So, and we could even just skip number 1 and jump. I'm sorry. Let's take a look at number 1 here. So you saw above that there are 2 phrases we use with gustar. Okay, we can, or there's 2 ways of saying I like. Me gusta or me gustan. Both mean I like. When do we use gusta and when do we use gustan? Real simple. Look at the thing liked. If the thing liked is singular, I use gusta. If the thing liked is plural, I use gustan. So I like the book would be me gusta el libro. It's just 1 book. But I like the books would be me gustan los libros. And that's it in a nutshell. Nothing more. All right. So if the thing is liked is plural, use gustan. If the thing liked is singular, use gusta. And the same thing with te. Te gusta, that means you, informal like. Okay? So you like sports would be te gustan los deportes, it's plural, but you like history would be te gusta la historia. Make sure you note that. You will be asked some questions on it. Now, how would you say he likes or she likes or usted, you like? You're going to use le. So le gusta can mean he likes, or le gustan can mean he likes. Le gusta can mean she likes, or le gustan can mean she likes, or you like, could be le gusta or le gustan. It can mean any one of those things. But our question is, when do I say le gusta? When the thing liked is singular. So he likes the book would be le gusta el libro. Now, how would I say she likes the books? Le gustan los libros. So again, look at the thing liked. If it's singular, use gusta. If it's plural, use gustan. And they give you some questions beneath. Make sure you can go through there and do these. They're very, very simple. Okay. Finally, let's see. Okay. And let me, okay. What if you want to use, if the thing you like to do is an activity? So we're going to start to need to learn a few verbs here. I like to sleep. I like to eat. I like to go to the movies. I like to go to the gym. Well, so let's take a look. Okay. All right. And also they want us to, so they call this section infinitives with gustar and ir. So an infinitive is just the unconjugated form of the verb. So I like to eat, or I am going to eat. So it's using gustar or ir with a verb infinitive. That's what they're talking. I am going to play baseball, or I am going to play basketball. Okay, or I like to play basketball. So using the to form of a verb with gustar or ir. That's what they want us to see. So they tell us in number one, uh, me gusta is followed by the infinitive, the unconjugated form of the verb in Spanish, and these always end in either AR, ER, or IR, okay? They always end in either AR, ER, or IR, okay? So I like to eat, me gusta comer. I like to speak, me gusta hablar. I like to go, me gusta ir, just to give you an example. Okay. Now, look at two. Gustar is always used in the singular when it's used with a verb. So I like to go to the movies is me gusta ir al cine. And it doesn't matter how many things that you like to do. So you might want to say, I like to go to the movies, I like to eat, and I like to sleep. It would be me gusta ir al cine, dormir, and comer, y comer. All right. So you always use me gusta or te gusta or le gusta with verb infinitives, no matter how many you have. The only time you use gustan is when you have a noun and it's plural. Okay. When the thing liked is a noun and it's plural. So make sure you see this distinction. It's very easy, very straightforward. Now, we can use ir plus a to go to and a verb. All right. We learned how to use ir plus a and a place. Yo voy al gimnasio. Ella va a la clase. Él va al supermercado. But we can also use ir a with a verb. And it's the future tense in a way. I am going to sleep. I am going to eat. I'm going to be home. So let's take a look. I'm going to study. Yo voy a estudiar. Notice that we're using it with a verb. We have to always follow ir with a, as we learned. And now our verb, just use the infinitive, the verb. I'm going to study. If I were going to eat, comer, I would say yo voy a comer. Okay. Let's look at this one. Estar bien. To be fine or well. Here they're asking a person, ¿vas a estar Bien. Are you going to be okay? Are you going to be fine? Here your friend Anna, maybe she's going to do exercise. To do exercise or to exercise is hacer ejercicio. Ejercicio is exercise. Hacer is to do or make. A very important verb. Ana va a hacer ejercicio. Again, you can use ir plus a and the verb infinitive to tell what you are going or what somebody is going to do. Anna's going to eat. Ana va a dormir. Bob is going to sleep. Bob va a dormir. We're going to sleep. Nosotros vamos a dormir. All right, so always follow ir with a, and then put in your verb infinitive, whatever activity you're going to do. Okay, and let's see. And I think that should be it for this chapter. Let me just, yeah. So that should do it for chapter 2. Now, I did want to point out some things with your chapter 2 test. Again, remember, you're going to be given situations where you're going to have to use adjectives, and you're going to have to tweak the adjectives in gender and number depending upon the gender of the person or thing you're referring to and the number. All right. You're going to have to use gustar, okay? I like, he likes, or do you like, informal, te gusta. You're going to have to use this. And remember, if the thing liked is a noun, we use gusta if the noun or thing liked is singular, me gusta el libro, and gustan if the thing liked is plural, me gustan los libros. Finally, with verbs, I like to eat. I like to be at home. We only use gusta. Me gusta estar en casa, comer y dormir. Only use gusta with verb infinitives. Remember the section on Los Españoles, the Conectate section. You'll be asked some questions on that. And finally, some people had trouble on the chapter 1 test. When you're asked to write something, and you're going to be asked to do small, very small little pieces, write small 4 or 5 sentence paragraphs on something, write them in Spanish, never English. And now we've had enough verbs and enough time now to talk about very simple things. So on this exam, chapter 2, you're going to have to write about yourself, basically give your name, and then describe yourself using some of the adjectives we have. So, tengo los ojos verdes, I have green eyes, or mis ojos son verdes. I am tall, soy alto, or I'm short, soy bajo. Talk about your personality, or soy reservado, or soy animado. You can talk a little bit about your personality and your physicality using ser. Okay. Be able to describe a friend. Mi amigo es alto. Mi amigo es inteligente. Be able to give your age. Yo tengo 30 años. I'm 30. Mi amiga tiene 50 años. My friend is 50 years old. Okay. And be able to describe a friend. Again, mi amiga es inteligente. Mi amiga es muy simpática or simpático. Adjust your adjectives according to the gender of the person or thing you're talking about. If you're a woman and you want to say, I'm happy, you might want to say, or you want to describe yourself, you would say, yo, and you're tall, yo soy alta. A guy, yo soy alto. Make sure you're able to make those distinctions. And let me see. You might want to say where you're from. Yo soy de Guatemala. I am from Guatemala. Or yo soy de los Estados Unidos. And finally, talk a little bit about what you like to do and maybe what your friend likes to do, okay? Me gusta estudiar. Uh, uh, Mi amiga le gusta dormir. My friend likes to sleep. So be able to describe things. So we don't have a huge vocabulary here, but there are certain things that, or you might just say, me gustan los deportes. I like sports. So be able to talk a little bit about what you like, what your friend likes, be able to describe yourself and your friend. Okay, mi amiga es delgada, or mi amigo es alto y gordo. Uh, but be able to do that. And I think you're going to do very fine on the upcoming exam. And I think that's it for today. Okay. Hold on.